Hello 4-H friends, this is Heather Castle, the Clark County Extension Agent for 4-H Youth Development here in Clark County, and I will be conducting your 4-H Speech Judges Orientation. First, before we begin, thank you so much for volunteering to be a speech judge and being a part of our contest. Because you are volunteering, I believe you also value the need to practice and be able to speak in front of a group. One of the things that 4-H means to us as far as the speech contest is 4-H providing youth with the ability to enhance and develop communication skills. The development of communication skills is one of the skills necessary to grow as an individual, a community member, and a leader. Educators can maximize the ability of youth to develop their writing, reading, and personal communication capacities. This in turn creates a solid foundation for positive youth development. In 4-H, we are also targeting the life skills of planning, organizing, goal setting, critical thinking, leadership, marketable skills, self-motivation, self-esteem, self-discipline, and stress management. Our contest this spring will look like the following. We will have 35 classrooms competing in the classroom contest. We have Baker Immediate with 5th graders. Conkright, Justice, Shear, and Strode Elementaries will be 4th graders. Calvary Christian will have 5th through 8th graders. St. Agatha will have 4th and 5th graders for approximately 875 total youth. The top 2 or 3 individuals from each classroom will then advance to the county contest. After the county contest, the classroom contests are completed. Youth will then be competing in the Clark County 4-H speech contest. So those 2 or 3 from each classroom will compete by age categories. Homeschool youth and any other youth who did not have a classroom contest will compete at the county contest as well. The top 2 scores from each age group advance to the Bluegrass Area 4-H Communications Contest at the end of April and early May. One winner from each age group then advances to the Kentucky 4-H State Communications Contest in mid-July at UK campus in Lexington. And Clark County has been very successful in these contests in the past, thanks to our speech judges, teachers, adults, and other parents who have helped our youth. So your task at hand as a speech judge is that you will be completing this judge's orientation. You will arrive at contest in a timely manner on the designated day. So if your time says 7:45, please be there a few minutes before so that we can start promptly at 7:45 with questions. Use a scoring sheet to judge each participant. We are not judging each participant against each other, but to a score sheet. Provide positive constructive criticism, utilize the Danish system of judging, and work with a teacher room host in each room to create a positive experience for each youth. We want this to be a great experience for them and a learning opportunity. And we'll need your help to select the top 2 or 3 individuals in each classroom. General rules of the speech contest, and this comes from the Kentucky State 4-H Communications website. Speech length for juniors, which are 9 to 13-year-olds, will be 3 to 5 minutes. Seniors are 14 to 18 years old, and they will be 5 to 7 minutes long, and this will occur mostly in our county contest after April. A time penalty will be taken in the tabulation room if over or under time limit. No visual aids or costumes are allowed. Does not include note cards. So they will not have any posters. They should not be in a costume. They should be dressed nicely. This is no dramatic readings, dramatic monologues, and recitation of poems as an entire speech, including web-based information, will not be accepted. These will be prepared speeches with the help of adults and teacher guidance. So how will judging happen? This is how it will happen. Judges will be placed in teams of 2 to 3 people. You will sit in the designated area in the back of the room, whether it's here at the extension office or in the classroom, or other area designated by the teacher. Students will be giving speeches from the front of the room. Judges will be given a pencil box with pencils, stopwatch, and other goodies. And judges will also be given a folder that contains the students' score sheets. Score sheets will be paper clipped together by a student, and they will hopefully be in order as they will be presenting their speeches. One judge will be responsible for score sheets for a team and ensure everyone has the correct score sheet for a student giving speech. Another team member will be responsible for timing speeches. All right, on the score sheets, this is an example here to the left, and you'll follow along with on the right. Please only use pencil on the score sheets. If make mistakes, erase thoroughly. When receive score sheets from your team member, please double check that the student's name at the top of the score sheet matches the student presenting the speech. The title of the speech doesn't matter too much to us. It just matters that we have the right score sheet for the right child as they are giving their speech. At the bottom, you'll see there's a place for judges' initials. Please write your initials and only your initials at the bottom of the score sheet. This will help us if we have any questions at the tabulation room, that we can bring that score sheet back to you in the room to be able to answer the questions that we might have. After you do the top portion there with the initials and checking the student's name, then indicate to the teacher or room host that you are ready to begin scoring. Teachers, room hosts will then introduce the speaker. All right, timing of the speech. One person will be the timekeeper, so they will have a stopwatch or a personal timing device that they wish to use, whether it's their phone or something else. Start timing device at the first word spoken and stop timing device after the last word spoken. This will give the time of their speech. The timekeeper shall immediately write time on their score sheet in the indicated area. So do this before you start scoring. That way you don't forget to write the time on the score sheet, and don't erase the time until you're finished, and double check that you have written that time on your score sheet. Do not share this time with the rest of the team. We do not want other students to overhear or see this information. We don't want to cause any undue criticism or negativity in the room. So if the timekeeper just writes that down on the sheet, then there won't be any other problems. So that's why we ask just the timekeeper write that on the sheet. Time penalties will be assessed in the tabulation room, not in a speech room. So you won't worry about if they're over or under time. You won't worry about doing any kind of adding or subtracting or anything like that. All right, on your score sheet, there is a total possible score of 80 points. Those of you who judged with this last year might remember that it was a 100-point scale. We have made those changes for this year and changed the score sheet so we can move away from that concept of being 100 points and then students believing that they are judged on an A, B, C, D, E type letter grade versus our Danish system that we actually use in 4-H. That's why we have adjusted that to 80 points. And we also have eliminated what we thought was some of the duplicate information on the score sheet that was unnecessary for what we were trying to do in the classrooms. So points are then broken down into blue, red, and white 4-H Danish ribbons. Blue signifies an excellent rating. Red signifies very good work, and white signifies needs improvement. Students are not judged against one another, but against the standard on the score sheet. So use that score sheet to judge the youth, not against each other. These standards will be outlined in the following slides. All right, the scoring scale. As you can see, 4 to 5 is above average, 2 or 3 is average, and 1 means needs improvement. We suggest that you start scoring at a 3 and move up or down from there based on your view of how the youth did against the score sheet. There will be differences between you and the judge next to you. We ask that you don't worry about it. That's why we have 2 judges in the room, because we then take your scores at the end, add them up, then do an average of both judges, or 2 or 3 judges, however many is in the room. So don't worry about the other judge as you view it against the score sheet. Use pencil to clearly circle the score next to each criteria. Be careful not to circle multiple numbers because that becomes confusing in the tabulation room. So just make sure that you're clearly circling that one number. Once scored, if you feel like you have to erase, make sure you are scoring up, not down, and clearly erase any mistakes. We ask that you don't score down because then it eliminates any questions at the end of the contest, whether they were adjusted after the students did their speeches. So that's why we ask that you only score up and not down, and make sure you clearly erase those mistakes and use pencil. All right. We ask that you also are expected to make positive, constructive comments in the box provided. If you award a 1 or 2, please make a comment as to why, because 1s and 2 are on the lower end, and we want to be able to give that youth this learning opportunity and give them a reason of why you scored them a 1 or 2. And it's easier for us to explain later to the teachers and students if you've given a comment or suggestion as to why that you did that. Remember, this is a big deal for 4th and 5th graders to get up in front of a room in front of their peers. For many, this is the first time presenting in front of a group, and your comments can make this a positive or negative learning experience for them. So please take care to provide positive, constructive comments that will help further strengthen their public speaking skills. Also, again, remember you are scoring them against the score sheet and not others. Remember, this is a learning experience, so remember that in the same vein of keeping in mind these are 4th and 5th graders, and what a 4th and 5th grader can do, and what an average one can do. But also remember, we are not all perfect and cannot get perfect scores. We want our youth to learn from this experience, and having a diverse spread of scores can help our youth advance their public speaking skills, as long as you are giving the feedback to go along with it. So please keep those things in mind. And we've talked to teachers also about, and teachers, if you are listening, please implement this in your room. Go over your students of what the scale is. 4 or 5 means what's a 2 or 3 mean, and prep them for this opportunity. Also remembering, you are just judging them at that moment, at that time, of how they do against that score sheet. You haven't seen all the great improvements that they have done beforehand. Teachers will hopefully prep their students and help them celebrate all those wonderful things that they have learned in the process. Your job as a judge is just to judge them at that particular moment against that score sheet and give them that learning opportunity. And it's a teacher's responsibility to help them see all the other things that they've learned during that time and celebrate those things. Okay, let's now look at each of those criteria and to give a little tidbit and an explanation behind each of those criterias. As you can see, they are divided into 3 main sections. We have organization of materials, audibility, and delivery. Number 1, you see it says neat, well-groomed, dressed appropriately. We only have a score of 4 or 5 available in that area. Dress will not receive any less than that. They have been prepped to dress neatly with what they have. Students have been instructed to wear plain shirts without distracting writing or logos. However, the purpose of this experience is for public speaking opportunities. How the students dress is not that extreme of importance to us, and some of the students are only dressing to what they have available to them at home. So that is why we only have a 4 or 5 possible in that area for dress. All right, going to the next slide. Each student was given a student workbook at the beginning of the process, and in there was these excerpts of what the parts of the speech are. And I thought that would be important for you to know what they had available to them and help you further understand what an introduction is, what the body includes, and what a conclusion is. So for the introduction, you are going to be looking for something that reveals the topic of the speech. It's going to be catchy. It's going to involve a short story example, statistic or interesting fact, famous quote, or familiar saying, something to grab your attention. It's going to be short, only maybe 2 or 3 sentences, something like that, and it's going to catch you. So a 3 would have that. A good average introduction would have that. A 5 would be something that really wowed you. They did something really different. They really captured your attention. And of course, if they didn't have an introduction or a very little introduction, you would take points off from there. So keep that in mind. The conclusion, I'm going to jump to that, is simply to remind people about the purpose and main ideas of the speech. It signals the close of the speech. It summarizes the main ideas of the speech. It leaves the audience thinking about your speech and what you have said. End with a quotation or verse that fits the topic. Suggest something for the audience to do. Learn more or try something. So that is what a conclusion looks like. So again, start at 3 on your scale and think, did it wow me? 5, 1 or 2s and 1s if they did not have 1 at all, that type of thing. All right, then in the body on our score sheet, it is divided into main points organized. So a body will have roughly 3 or 4 main points in an orderly and organized fashion. It also involves the speech flow, with smooth and unnecessary pauses. So when they have been writing and speaking in their speeches, they have instructed to be clear, natural in their speaking, smoothly go from one point to the next in a logical way, and do the pauses make sense of where they're at. So you would adjust the score depending on your view of what that is. The next section is audibility. Number 8 states clearly heard, which deals with volume. So in their speech workbook, it says that you must speak clearly and loudly so everyone in the room can hear you. Adjust your score accordingly. If you can't hear them, then obviously it would be scored lower. If they're yelling and the volume is too much for the audience, you might make a comment about that as well and make a small deduction for that as well. 9, easy to understand pronunciation. So part of speaking clearly is not mumbling, not stumbling over hard to pronounce words that you normally would not use. They vary their voice tone and volume for emphasis. So that is part is easy to understand, dealing with pronunciation and being able to be understood. 10 is speech delivery speed. You want students to speak conversationally. You don't want it to be a recitation. You don't want it to be so fast that they sound nervous or breathless or sound like an auctioneer. And you don't want them to be so slow that they are monotone and boring. So they need to be able to glide along, not to just plod along when they're speaking, when they're delivering their speech. 11 is enthusiastic. Personality shows through. You want a speaker that shows excitement. You want them to have passion. You want to show their personality. You want to show that they're interested. That way, they're not only interested in their speech themselves, but that engages the audience by speaking naturally with excitement and a smile. So if that might be included in that as well. As when you make a comment, if they're not smiling or they don't look like they're enjoying themselves, you may make a positive constructive comment at that point. 12 is part of delivery, but eye contact with the audience. Look at audience as much as possible. Make sure not just that you're not staring at one person the whole time. 5 would be something that it's just really working the audience. They're looking around like the whole time. Their note cards, they're looking at them sparingly. They only use them to make sure they know where they're at. And 1 on the other end of the scale, or 2 or 1, would be that there's little or no eye contact with the audience, that they're looking down at their note cards and reading from them the whole entire time. And then in the next slide, we're going to get into delivery, more of delivery of the speeches. Everybody uses notes when giving a presentation. We want to teach youth how to use notes effectively. An effective use of note cards would be someone who uses them only to make sure they are making the main points. They are not distracting from the speech. So, example, if they're waving them around the air or holding them with a death grip or holding them high in front of their face and just taking away from their presentation, then you would make some comments and judge accordingly. The other end is that they would be completely reading the entire speech from the cards. If the student is effectively using notes, they will get a 5. If they do not effectively use the cards, you can score down, from there, from giving little pointers and constructive criticism. But the thing is we're not taking points away from them for having cards. We suggest they have cards. And of course, if they've got it all memorized, then yes, they get a 5. All right. So that was effective use of no cards and eye contact with the audience. 14 is posture. In their speech workbooks, it says to stand comfortably and confidently with feet fairly close together. No slumping or leaning. If they're rocking and swaying and weaving and walking back and forth and twisting around, you might make comments as if, be conscious to stand more still in front of the audience. You are weaving back and forth or twisting your hair, whatever it might be in that section. Just please make sure you make comments, but they've been instructed to be comfortable and confident. So somebody who is really exuding all those, being just extra confident, they look natural and comfortable, would get a 5, and then you score with that 3 being average. Gestures natural, it contribute to talk. This is the gestures that they use with their hands. They use gestures to emphasize main points. They want to be natural and not distractive. Unnatural would be like waving their hands about, nervous twisting the hands, no hand gestures at all, the death grip on the cards. We want them to be relaxed. If they only use maybe 1 or 2 gestures, you might score down. So you have to look at those things. So how they're using their hands, if their gestures are natural, if they're emphasizing new points, main points, look at, once again, they using them, waving them around, are they being nervous? Look at those types of things when you're using that scale. Did speaker retain retention throughout? Did speaker retain attention throughout? Adjust score if started strong and then wavered towards the end, or maybe they, at the beginning, they started wavered and then finished strong. So you can adjust according there. But if they were strong throughout, you can score them accordingly and look for those. But from the start of the speech to the beginning is what we're looking for when speaker retains audience attention. All right, if you have any questions over this criteria, there'll be my email address and phone number at the end, or if you want to save them for the portion right before we go in the contest, you can. I know you'll have questions. I did my best to explain this to you on the PowerPoint. This is a new skill. I'm also learning about recording my voice on a PowerPoint. So this has been an interesting experience for me also, and I've really enjoyed it though. So if you have any questions, again, let me know ahead of time, or you can also ask during the orientation. All right, some tips. So some of the tips we have is this: score as the student is speaking. Students have been prepped that judges will be scoring as they are speaking, so not to worry about what the judges are doing in the back of the room. So please do score. We have sometimes 25 to 30 students giving a speech in a classroom in a 3-hour period. So we do need to keep things moving as much as possible. And the more time that we take in between, the more nervous they get or question about what is being wrote on the score sheet. So, keep that in mind as you're scoring, and please do score as they are speaking. Again, if you cannot hear a student because of a heating, cooling fan or other device out of student's control, please alert the teacher before getting too far into the contest. After completion of the speech, take a minute or 2 to complete scoring and comments, but please refrain from taking longer than 2 minutes. After you've scored, before handing the score sheet to the teacher, please double check the following: that all areas have been scored and clearly circled, any mistakes erased, your initials are at the bottom of the sheet, and timekeeper check time has been recorded on your score sheet. You will then give your score sheets to the room host or the teacher, who will place them outside the door for us to pick up and take to the tabulation room to keep tabulation going as the contest is going. Do not add up your scores. We take care of all that in the tabulation room. Remember, you are only scoring to the sheet of paper, to the standard, so the overall score should not matter to you at that time. Have fun. Do your best and be prepared to hear a lot of good speeches and with lots of new information to be learned. After contest and all students have presented your speeches, you'll gather all your materials and belongings, the folders, the pencil box, and then you will head to the tabulation room. Here we will confirm that all scores have been completed and the top scores presented to the judges for your confirmation that looks like the ones that you truly meant to be the top ones in the class for the move on to the county contest. All right, contest time. You've reviewed the orientation, you've double-checked your time and location of the contest, you arrived by the time before the time indicated on the confirmation. If you had any problems, you will call or please text me immediately. If you're running behind for some reason or something happens, you're sick, please, as soon as possible, let me know. My cell phone is on here, 859-749-3841. We have the office number also. The office is open from 8 to 4:30 every day. So anytime before that or after that, you'll have to reach me by my cell phone number. Prefer cell phone if it has to do with the speech contest on that day. When you arrive to the school, park in the parking lot designated, sign in at the front office of the school or extension office if you're doing the county contest. Meet in the judge's room as indicated by the school or 4-H staff, and we will provide you with all the materials and any last-minute instructions at that time, and answer any last-minute questions at that time as well. So again, thank you so much for your time for doing this orientation. We appreciate you. Thank you for allowing me to make a few mistakes in this presentation. Double check the time and date of your speech. If you have any questions, please let me know. And we also ask that you please click or cut and paste this into this link in your browser. This will allow us to know that you have reviewed the orientation before the speech contest. And hopefully by doing this beforehand, we can answer any questions that you have beforehand, make sure that everybody is hearing the same information for all speech judges. And the teachers will also be able to view this orientation as well to make sure that we're all on the same page so that we can make this contest as successful as possible. And again, thank you. Don't forget to fill out the Qualtrics survey here, the link here, cut or paste, please do that. And thank you so very much for your time.